Welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring personality through the lens of the Enneagram.
Always a fun one.
Right. And specifically, we're going to be focusing on type 3, the achiever.
Ooh, yeah, the threes.
We're going to be looking at how this type manifests in the life and career of the actress Elsa Pataky.
A perfect example, really, but especially when you consider Elsa seems to be a sexual three subtype.
Okay, so hold on. Before we go any further, can we just break down what a sexual 3 actually is?
Sure.
Because I'm picturing someone who's very driven, very ambitious,
Yeah.
but how does the sexual aspect play into it?
Okay, so picture this. The sexual three is magnetic. They're all about image, attractiveness,
Oh,
and using those qualities to captivate and be seen. Think sex appeal, as described by Claudio Naranjo.
okay.
Big name in Enneagram world. It's almost like they're using this magnetism strategically, in their relationships, their careers.
Okay, yeah. That makes a lot of sense, and that definitely tracks with some of Elsa's roles, especially in the Fast and Furious franchise. She's often portraying the strong, alluring, powerful woman.
Exactly. It plays right into that inherent charisma. But it goes beyond just appearances. Regardless of subtype, the core of a three is that deep-seated desire to be seen as successful and admired. They're driven by that need for external validation.
And we definitely see that playing out in like how meticulously she curates her public image. Everything from her red carpet looks to her social media presence just seems very carefully calculated. And she's so dedicated to like her fitness, her beauty routines, almost like she's striving for this like flawless exterior. Would you say that's pretty typical of a 3?
Absolutely. It's like a hallmark of the three's perfectionism.
Yeah.
This drive to present, the perfect image as proof of their success.
Okay.
Which, it's interesting because that external focus might actually stem from a deeper fear.
Wait, really? So you're telling me someone who seems to have it all, career, the looks, the family, could be struggling with insecurity?
Yeah, you have to remember, beneath that confident surface, threes often grapple with this nagging sense of inadequacy. It's like this constant fear of being exposed as a fraud.
So is it possible that Elsa's emphasis on, looking perfect, having this picture-perfect life, is actually a way to mask those deeper insecurities? It's almost like she's overcompensating.
It's definitely a possibility, and Naranjo, who we talked about before, specifically observed that sexual threes often channel their need for validation into their family roles.
Interesting. So for someone like Elsa, that might mean being the, perfect wife and mother.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if those picture-perfect family photos on social media are actually a way of seeking approval.
It could be. Or it could be a genuine expression of her love for her family. You see, the thing about the Enneagram is it's not about labeling people.
Right.
It's about understanding these deeper motivations and recognizing the potential pitfalls.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, it's not like any of this is like a conscious thing or a malicious thing.
Right.
It's more like it's woven into like the fabric of their personality.
Exactly. And it's important to remember every individual is unique, even within a specific Enneagram type. There's a lot of nuance.
Right, that makes total sense. So knowing what we know now about the 3, are there any other aspects of Elsa's life where we see this playing out?
Well, let's look at her career. Think about the variety of roles she's taken on, from action hero to romantic lead.
Oh, yeah.
It highlights another key trait of the 3, adaptability.
Yeah, that's right. It's like they have this like chameleon-like ability to morph into whatever the situation demands.
Yeah.
And Elsa's career is like the perfect example of that. It makes you wonder, though, could that constant shape-shifting ever become, exhausting?
That's a great question. It's something we should definitely dive into. Because while adaptability is a huge strength, there can be a downside.
Okay, so now I'm really curious. How does this play out? For Elsa, but also just, for the rest of us, too. Is there a point where constantly striving, adapting, takes a toll on us? Let's unpack that next.
You touched on something really important there, that potential downside of constantly adapting and striving.
Yeah.
For a 3, especially a sexual 3,
Right.
that image they project, that perfect exterior, it can almost become like a gilded cage,
So you're saying it's not all it's cracked up to be?
Yeah.
Even for someone like Elsa, who, from the outside seems to have it all figured out.
Exactly. Remember we talked about how 3s, deep down often grapple with this fear of being exposed as a fraud?
Mm-hmm.
So they put all this energy into maintaining that perfect facade, seeking validation from others to try and quell those inner doubts.
Right.
But it's a cycle that can be hard to break free from.
It's almost like they're trapped in this loop of like trying to prove their worth through external achievements and appearances.
And that can be exhausting
Yeah.
because no matter how much they achieve or how perfect they appear, it might never be enough to truly silence that inner critic.
So how does this like play out in Elsa's life specifically? We talked about her career, her carefully curated image, but what about like her personal life? Is it possible that she's seeking that same validation through her roles as a wife and mother?
It's certainly a possibility.
Okay.
And remember, this isn't necessarily like a conscious, calculated thing.
Right.
It's often more about like these deeply ingrained patterns and coping mechanisms.
So you're saying those picture-perfect family photos that she shares, those could be like a way of trying to project this image of happiness and success, maybe even to convince herself as much as anyone else.
It's a complex question, and it really gets to the heart of what the Enneagram's all about, you know? It's
Oh.
not just understanding others, it's about
Yeah.
understanding ourselves.
Right.
Think about your own life. Like, where do you seek validation? What are those things you do to try to prove your worth?
Wow, that's a really thought-provoking question. I have to give that some serious thought.
Yeah.
But let's get back to Elsa for a minute. We've talked about like how threes, particularly the sexual subtype, are so focused on image and validation. But we also touched on this other key trait, like their amazing adaptability.
Right. Think about Elsa's acting career. Like, she seamlessly embodies all these different characters, fully immersing herself in each role.
And it's not just like acting, it's her whole life. She moves so effortlessly between being like a public figure, a fitness guru, a wife, a mother.
Right.
It's almost like she can just like slip into any role and excel at it. It's pretty impressive when you think about it.
It's definitely a strength.
Yeah.
That inherent flexibility, that drive to achieve, those are qualities that can take a 3 far in life.
For sure.
But, and this is a big but,
Yeah.
there's a potential shadow side to all that adaptability.
Okay, now you've got me intrigued. What's the downside?
Think about it this way. If you're constantly adapting to meet everyone else's expectations, are you ever truly being yourself? Is there a risk of losing sight of who you are beneath all those roles you're playing?
Whoa, that's deep. It's almost like they're sacrificing their authenticity in the pursuit of success and admiration.
It's a real concern, and it's something we all need to be mindful of regardless of our Enneagram type, you know?
Right.
Are we living in alignment with our true values, or are we contorting ourselves to fit into these molds that don't really feel right?
Those are some big questions.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling this conversation is about to get even bigger.
Let's shift gears for a moment.
Okay.
We've been focusing on Elsa as an individual, but
Yeah.
now I want to explore how these 3 qualities play out on like a larger scale.
Okay.
How do their values and motivations influence our society as a whole?
Ooh, that's a fascinating angle. I'm ready to dive in. Let's talk about how the three's drive for achievement and validation shapes the world around us. All right, so we've been deep diving into Elsa Pataky as this really fascinating example of the Enneagram Type 3, specifically like the sexual subtype, right? And we've kind of unpacked their drive for achievement, this focus on image and how that can sometimes like mask deeper insecurities.
Right, right.
But now let's zoom out a little bit
Okay.
and look at the bigger picture. How does all of this play out on like a societal level?
Well, you know, think about some of those core values we see in threes. Ambition, drive, a desire for success. These are qualities that are often like held up as these ideals in our society.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, we're constantly bombarded with messages about achieving your dreams, climbing the ladder, you know, projecting this image of success.
It's true. It's like we're living in this like hustle culture where everyone's striving for the next big thing, the next promotion, the next like level of status.
Exactly. And social media just amplifies that pressure to like appear successful and put together.
Totally.
And for threes, with their inherent drive and desire for admiration, this kind of environment can be like both exhilarating and challenging. They might thrive in those competitive fields,
Right.
pushing themselves to achieve more and more and more.
But you have to wonder, like, at what cost? Is it really sustainable to constantly be striving for external validation?
That's the key question,
Yeah,
because
right.
the danger is that in this pursuit of like external success, threes might actually lose touch with their own like needs and desires. They become so focused on achieving and projecting the right image
Yeah.
that they neglect their own like inner well-being.
And if everyone's caught up in this cycle of like striving and comparing,
Yeah,
what does that do to our society as a whole?
right.
Does it create a sense of like connection and community, or does it foster like more competition and isolation?
Those are some really important questions to consider, and I think that's where the Enneagram can be such a valuable tool. It's not just about understanding individual personality types.
Right.
It's also about understanding how those types, interact and influence the systems around us.
Right. So by like understanding the three's drive for achievement and how that plays out in our culture, we can start to like make more conscious choices about how we engage with those societal pressures.
Exactly. It's about becoming aware of those influences and deciding what truly matters to us.
Yeah.
Do we want to define success based on those external measures? Or do we want to create our own definition? One that's like more aligned with our values, brings us genuine fulfillment.
You've given us a lot to think about today. We've explored the Enneagram Type 3 through the lens of Elsa Pataky, looking at how her career, her image, even her family life kind of reflects those core three qualities. We've also like delved into the potential pitfalls of constantly striving for that external validation, both, for individuals and for society as a whole.
And hopefully this deep dive has sparked some curiosity for you, the listener. Maybe it's made you want to learn more about the Enneagram, or maybe it's encouraged you to just reflect on your own motivations and values.
So as we wrap up this episode, we're going to leave you with this final thought. How do you define success? Is it about those external achievements and that validation? Or is there like a deeper, more authentic measure that really resonates with you? Take some time to ponder that. And until next time, keep diving deep into the fascinating world around you.